Hi, welcome back. So we are going to be talking about breathing in this video. And this is your first layer of breathing. It's going to be helping you quite a bit. We're going to talk a little bit more about breathing and the whole the whole thought process of breathing in Module 6. But for this, I want you to start to look at and find both your neutral seat, and again, that's something we're going to just touch on, as well as your breathing. With your neutral seat, this is part of the work from Peggy Cummings. This is neutral pelvis, or the beginning and the introduction to it. This is one small introduction to neutral pelvis. If you are interested in learning more, again, I invite you to contact a connected riding practitioner or instructor, either myself or someone else, to help you through with that. Or please consult Peggy's books or DVDs so that you can get what you need properly and really truly find your neutral. It is a magical spot for you to be. So the first thing that you're going to need is you're going to need a chair, a steady chair that is level on the bottom. This chair is pretty ideal, but it does kind of set me back a little bit. So you do want a chair that is going to be fairly level. This would be ideal. So just so you know that, and you can set yourself up. So the first thing is you're going to want to sit on the edge of the chair so that you can feel the bottom of your seat bones making contact with the chair. And just sit as you regularly would. So I've got a little bit of information here on the board just to share with you what we're going to be going through. But again, there are many other resources that I will share with you that you will be able to really understand neutral better. One of the things that's going to help you with neutral is, number one, let go of the end goal. You will not feel, or I shouldn't say you will not, you probably won't feel a neutral posture right away. You'll feel your first layer of neutral, is what I like to call it. I can share with you, I used to be a severe archer, so I would literally ride like this. My back was arched and I was here, and there were all kinds of things going on. But so because I was so severely arched, it took me literally about 1.5 years to really understand and become neutral. And now neutral is a habitual posture for me, so it's a good habitual posture. So give yourself time to do that. Again, we're going to be learning through contrast, and so I'm going to ask you to arch and slouch and be in neutral. So just know that we're going to be working through these different sensations so that you can feel that contrast. There's no better teacher than feeling the contrast yourself in your own body. And if you want to say there's a trick to this, the trick to it is to, number one, change slowly, and number two, enjoy the subtlety of the shifts, because these are not big movements. In fact, when you work with connected riding, you'll find that it's the more subtle things that actually bring forth the bigger shifts. So just enjoy that subtlety. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is have your feet out at about a 90 degree, your knees at about a 90-degree angle, both feet flat on the floor. If you can't get both feet flat on the floor using the chair that you're using, then either put something underneath your feet or get another chair. That's because that's important. If you're going to be reaching for the floor, that's not going to help you. So the first thing that I want you to do is remember how we talked about expansion and compression. I just want you to be aware of expansion in your body. And as you're aware of that expansion in your body, just think about if the center of your body from the top going down would be a plumb line. So if I were to drop a line just from the tips of my fingers down, that plumb line is what we are going to be buoying forward and back across. And again, there's going to be a little picture that's going to show you what that plumb line looks like. So first thing that I'd like for you to do is just relax, find your breath, find a little bit of expansion in your body. In other words, don't sit like this. And as you do, I just want you to find a little buoy forward and back across that plumb line. Now you can even feel that buoy with your breath. So as I breathe in, I buoy forward, and as I breathe out, I buoy back. So when you feel that, it should feel just effortless. And you can see in my body, hopefully you can see, how small that buoy is. It's really small. And I can move my head, I can be relaxed in the rest of my body, just doing this little buoy. And it actually becomes kind of very therapeutic, if you will. So now what I'd like for you to do is think about your sternum, which is right here in between your chest, and I want you to think about raising the bottom of your sternum up. So when I do that, you can see that it creates an arch in my back. So now I have compression in my back here, and I also actually have compression here in my neck. So keep your sternum raised and go ahead and buoy front and back again. And now just be aware of your body. What do you notice? Well, I notice that it's really hard for me to buoy evenly, number one. And number two, I'm feeling like I'm tipping backwards more. Now, you might be experiencing something different, so don't just go by what my experience is. Just feel in your own body what the experience is that you're experiencing. So now from that arch or that raised sternum, I want you to come back to that expansion. So from the bottom to the top, feel your seat bones on the chair. Feel that contact, that even contact, and come back to more of that neutral buoy. So I'm back into more of a neutral buoy here. And now I'm going to ask you to take your sternum and drop your sternum. So you're going to come into a slump. So now I have compression again on my neck. And my compression now has changed. It's actually compressed here on the front, right? Because the expansion that I had between the front body is now slumped over and it's compressed. And so now if I try to buoy again, you might be able to see what happens with my buoy. Number one, it feels really sluggish. It feels kind of hard to do. And I feel like I'm tipping forward, basically, like I could just kind of tip forward on my nose. So again, your experience might be different. Just go with what you are feeling. And again, from the slump, bring yourself back to that expansion and find your neutral buoy again. So by now, by doing the arching and the slumping, you should have felt a contrast of what it feels like to be more in a neutral position and be more in a either a slumped or an arched position. Now I'm going to give you one last little piece here. When I am arched, because we're talking about a neutral pelvis, so when I am arched, when that sternum is up, what happens is, do you see how my hips move forward? So now if I had little searchlights on my seat bones that are projecting down, when this part of my pelvis moves forward, those searchlights, those seat bones come back, and I have just completely lost all contact with the chair and my seat bones. So I'm sitting on a completely different part of my pelvis right now. In contrast, when I slump, my pelvis comes back, and a lot of men ride like this. It's just an anatomical thing, but they will ride like this. And when they do, now the searchlights, my seat bones are pointing forward basically, so they're more at an angle like this. Again, I have lost all contact with the chair with my seat bones, and I'm literally rolling on a different part of my pelvis. So just understand that if that's something that you felt. And you might want to stop the video here and re-experience what we just did by going back and forth and understanding that rotation of where you're going with your seat bones. So now let's go to breathing from our middle. So our first layer of breathing, and this is our first layer of breathing, when we're breathing, we want rhythmical breathing. And if we think about working with our horse, whenever we're working with our horse, we want a nice steady rhythm. That steady rhythm is extremely soothing and confidence building for your horse, and it's the same for you. The other thing that you want to be aware of is that your breathing is full and not shallow. Now, you don't want to breathe so fully, if you will, that you cause yourself to become lightheaded, and I've seen that happen quite often. So just breathe normally, but think about breathing fully as opposed to just having small, shallow breaths. So now what you can do is you can find your neutral position again, and the way that I like to think about neutral in a chair is I like to think about the line of my back and my front is even. So remember when I'm arching, now my back is shorter, that line, and when I'm slumping, this line is shorter. So this is where you can find that expansion between your back and your front, and you can find that neutral. And just think about releasing your lower back. What I find most people do is they'll tense that lower back. So again, I want you to be aware of your current state right now. And I want you to bring your hands on your lower abdomen. So one hand is going to be the hand in the front, the palm is going to be on your abdomen, the hand in the back, your palm is going to face away from your abdomen or from your back. So it's the back of your hand. And now all I want you to do is I want you to think about breathing. And so just take a second to breathe and feel how your hands are moving in correspondence with that breath. So, if you are in neutral, you should feel an even movement between your hands with that breath. So, if you're not feeling that, just find that expansion again, find that buoy, and then stop and do that breathing. And you should feel that pretty darn even expansion between your hands. Now we're going to do the contrast again. So again, if I bring my sternum up and I start to arch, now if I breathe, I can only feel the breath in my front hand. I can't feel it in the back of my hand. This area is compressed, so I can't feel that breath. Conversely, if I let my sternum down and I breathe, you're probably already going to know where you're going to feel it. I feel it more in my back body now because now this area is compressed. And so when you think about the questions here that I have, I kind of already gave you the answers, but what are the differences? And when is there less movement? And when is there no expansion? So you can think about that and play with that a little bit. And in fact, I invite you to do that because the more that you do that, the more aware you're going to become. And the easier it's going to be able for you to take it from a stationary chair up onto the back of your horse. Because then, of course, you've got movement, you've got your riding you have to pay attention to. So the more that you start to bring it into habit and familiarity in the chair, the easier it's going to be when you get on your horse. The other thing that I invite you to do is I invite you to do this also repeatedly over the next week. So as you are practicing this, you're going to find it's going to be easier for you to find neutral. It's going to be easier for you to find the difference in your breathing. It's all just going to become more second nature to you. So next, here's another way that you can practice your breathing, and you can take what we call soft fists. So in other words, they're not hard, they're just soft. And you take these soft fists and you just put them at your waist. And so as you have them at your waist, you go through the same process that we just went through. I'm going to find a neutral posture for myself. I'm going to release my back because that's probably my biggest area of compression. And I'm going to just go ahead and take a nice breath. So when I do that in neutral, I feel both of my soft fists being pushed out evenly from the side. Now, if I am, again, in an arched position, it's gone. I can't feel that pushing off the side. In fact, all I can feel is my belly coming forward. If you're more of a chest breather, you might feel it in a different spot entirely. So think about bringing that breathing even further into your belly, which is really where you want it. And let me clarify with that. You want to be breathing into your belly as opposed to breathing in your chest, up into your chest. So you can also do this again by slumping and feeling the difference there. Again, I don't feel anything shifting on the sides. You can go further up underneath your armpits and repeat all three again, which is what I encourage you to do, because each one of these exercises allows you to feel your breathing deeper. And again, if you're breathing mostly through your chest, so when you're breathing and you're going, that's shallow breathing. If I think about breathing and I bring my breath all the way down, do you see how my arms did not move, my shoulders didn't move, and I actually got a deeper breath coming in and out. So again, try in all these different positions here, soft fists, and enjoy starting to really feel and become one with your breath. And a tip is always end in neutral. If you do, your body's muscle memory, the nervous system, and everything else will start to take hold of neutral, and it will start to become your habitual movement. So now we're going to come and talk a little bit about SOS. All right, so SOS is simply stands for speak or sing. And it has been one of the things that has saved me on many a trail ride, especially if I've been trail riding on my own. And in one case, I had a whole, I don't know what you call them, a herd of turkeys, a gaggle of turkeys, I don't know. But I had a whole bunch of turkeys come across my horse and we didn't really have anywhere to go, safe to go. And so I had to do a lot of singing to keep myself from getting really stiff and rigid. So what SOS does is it brings back to the rhythm, to our breathing, to a much more regular way of breathing. And in doing that, it also helps our heart rate stay nice and steady. It's incredible. I just read recently that whatever our heart does, our horse's heart will mimic. And so if our heart rate starts going up, even if we don't realize it's going up, our horse's heart rate is going to go up too, and they're going to respond accordingly. So SOS is great because it helps bring us back into that breathing rhythm and also the heart rate rhythm. And because of that, it brings us back into our learning state, which we'll talk a lot about more in Module 2 coming up. So SOS plus neutral is going to give you an incredible advantage in the saddle and also on the ground when you're working with your horse, because everything that we do on the ground translates up into the saddle. So again, I just want to remind you, always end in neutral. It's really important for us to do that. So you have 2 new things now, or 3 new things really to practice. You have your neutral to practice this week. You also have your breathing and making sure that you can touch base and check in with your breathing. So the checks and balances, the compares and contrasts, and then your SOS, your speak or sing. So start thinking about great songs to sing on the trail. Have fun. Bye-bye.